Welcome to the Enhanced Living Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Kruger. I believe that we all have within us the power to be everything that we were meant to be and so much more. This show is a weekly dose of practical and spiritual principles, strategies, tips, and ideas to help you grow into the best version of yourself. Here's to becoming exactly who you were meant to become. I've been called a human Swiss Army knife because I'm a TV host, inspirational speaker and coach, live event MC and DJ, certified yoga and Ayurveda teacher, functional fitness enthusiast, author, husband, and dad with a voracious appetite for knowledge, and I'll be sharing real talks with successful people from all walks of life, spiritual teachers and masters, and experts in many different fields. I'll also share my own perspective that I've gained from over 20 years of diligent meditation and spiritual work so we can all experience enhanced living. Are you ready to evolve? Let's do this. Happy Friday and welcome back to Enhanced Living once again. You know, I love my wife so much that I brought her back again this week for two reasons. One, because the topic that I'm about to discuss with her and with you is something that she's, I guess, always been better at handling than I have, because for some reason, it's a tough one for me to have learned, although I will say I've gotten better at forgiveness over the course of life. But that is exactly what we are talking about today, which is how to forgive. Now, forgiveness is a very tricky thing because when somebody hurts us, whether it's on purpose or not, the hurt can sometimes be so overwhelming that we hold on to it. We want to hang on to it and we want to return the pain because we can't handle it and we think that they should suffer in turn. And first of all, this is absurd, but at the same time, it is totally understandable. And so today's topic is really all about how to forgive and why forgiving someone has nothing to do with them and it's all about you. So Cherise, welcome back to the show once again.
Thanks for having me.
I feel weird saying welcome back to the show. We live together and I see you every single day. For anyone who's not used to hearing her beautiful voice, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I want to talk about forgiveness because you seem to be able to forgive and forget really, really easily. And I tend to have to work harder at it.
Yes, you do. And that's okay. That's where we help each other out with different things. And I think I don't know. I don't know what it is. I guess I just came in knowing that holding on to something like that doesn't do any good for yourself or others around you, and it just really holds you back in life, not anybody else. It's almost like you're poisoning yourself or you're stabbing yourself for no reason.
I like that you use that example because whenever I talk with people and I'm helping them get through things, any specific hardships in life, oftentimes it comes down to forgiveness. And sometimes there are things that are done that are absolutely unforgivable, in the sense that you cannot move forward in the relationship with them. And that's on a sliding scale because everyone has their red line that they just won't go past. But at the end of the day, you brought up poison, right? And I believe that holding anger or holding a grudge or holding horrible feelings towards someone is basically the same as drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It's literally just hurting you. So when it comes to forgiveness, my thing is this. I believe that you have to look at this and go, I love myself enough to say, you know what? I'm going to let this go. I forgive you whether you're apologizing or not. I forgive you because I want to set myself free. It's not about not letting them own up to it or not having consequences for their actions. It's simply not allowing someone to live rent-free inside your head. It's about letting them go. And it's about saying, listen, whatever this is, I'm not going to carry your hurt anymore. Because I think what it comes down to, and I think this is something that has taken me a really long time to internalize and really kind of live, which is nothing that anybody does, says, or how they behave has anything to do with you. Nothing is personal. It's one of the 4 agreements written by Don Miguel Ruiz. If you've not read that book, which, I mean, it's been around forever, but if you haven't, I highly recommend. It's a short book, but it is so powerful. And one of the 4 agreements is don't take anything personally. Because the fact of the matter is that nothing is personal. And as soon as you realize that and internalize it and understand it, at that point, forgiveness becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, it sure does. And it also doesn't mean if you're going to forgive somebody, it doesn't mean you have to spend a lot of time with them or any time with them. It just means that you're letting that go from your mind and not letting it control how you interact with people in the future or how you interact with another relationship or how you interact with yourself. Sometimes we need to forgive ourselves. We're holding on to something that is just not suiting us. And I don't remember who said this recently, but I know it's a known thing that you want to treat yourself the same way that you treat people you love in your life. Like, talk to yourself with love, talk to others with love. And so it's the same all around. And forgiveness is a part of it. And then you get to decide if you want to allow that person or situation into your life again. You don't have to in all situations.
Well, that's the thing, is that trust is not something that's really easy to regain, right? But forgiveness is something that's it's an easy thing to do once you conceptualize what it really is. When you understand that everyone is working from the best possible place that they know how to at that moment in time, when you realize that that's their level of consciousness and that's all that it is. And that could be great and it could be not so great. As soon as you get to that point and understand that nothing's personal, then if they hurt you by whatever reason, whether it's on purpose or by accident, it doesn't matter what the actual intention is. Although I will say this, if it's unintentional and they've hurt you and they didn't mean to, it's a lot easier to get past it than if they actually did something with malice or they were trying to hurt you. But even still, you have to be able to forgive that person, because at the end of the day, when you say, hey, you know what? That's your own thing, man. I'm cool. I forgive you. Whether you even say it to them directly or not, being able to forgive is setting yourself free. Now, forgetting is something completely different. Sometimes you're going to remember this. But at the end of the day, you have to remember something even more, which is they'll hurt you once, or the action will happen once. Whether you choose to be hurt by it continuously and over again, that's your choice. You can either relive it in your mind and feel that hurt over and over again, or you can forgive them, set them free, and move on, and only experience the hurt once or twice when you remember it the first or few times or whatever it is. But that's really what it comes down to. You have to decide, do I want to suffer, or do I want to release myself from the suffering and learn from the lesson and go, you know what? This relationship isn't for me. This friendship isn't for me. This whatever it is, I'm going to move on from this because it wasn't good for me. I've learned. Now, if the person comes back and they're truly seeking forgiveness and they're looking to change, then you can reevaluate, right?
Absolutely. And I was going to say too, sometimes when we don't get the kind of closure we need in terms of forgiveness and being able to have things come full circle, we have to do that for ourselves, like you were just talking about. I find it really helps if you're having a hard time, letting go of that person or situation, is to literally take envision a sword and that cord that's connected between you and that person or the situation, and literally just chopping that cord off. And sometimes you have to visualize that several times. And another thing that really helps too is if you're not able to vent or get it out, just remember that that person or that situation, it's just lacking in love in some capacity. And I just like to blast it with love, because I really feel like people that are hurt really, really try to hurt other people because that's what they know. And so if you just really think about, wow, they must be hurting or be on such a level where, you just want to blast them with love.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. It's something that I've struggled with in the past because I don't know what it is. I'm, as you call me, your bulldog. I tend to have see, it depends. Like if someone is picking on someone who is not as strong as they are, or more vulnerable, or so on and so forth, like I don't know why this is branded into me, but from a very young age I've always felt the need to stand up for those who are being picked on or treated poorly. And if they don't have the capacity to stand up for themselves, I feel a need to jump in and defend. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's silly, if it's great, or if whatever. It's just the way I work. It's just the way I feel.
It might be part of your lineage too. Look at what your grandmother went through. Sometimes we carry that in ourselves, even just, you look at your heritage and I believe everybody can change from that, but there is a part of you that's in you.
That's a very good point. For anyone listening right now who has no idea what Cherise just mentioned, my grandmother was a Holocaust survivor. She's passed now. And she did the death march between concentration camps. She was actually somehow miraculously liberated from a death camp and survived 2 others. So she was actually at 3 camps where she could have been put to death, but didn't. She survived the Holocaust. And if you want to talk about forgiveness, actually, I'm going to bring her into this conversation right now, because she was someone who by every measure, had every right to literally hate German people for the rest of her life. She experienced stuff that honestly, I don't even think anyone has any capacity to understand unless you were there, what that was. And I remember having a conversation with her once because she had said something like, "Oh no, German people are great." Not in that way. She spoke with an accent. She was Hungarian. And I said, "But what, I don't understand, Grandma. Like, you went through so much." And she said, "Yeah, but you have to be able to live and let live. And you have to let it go. And you have to be able to forgive because not all German people are bad. Not all German people were bad in that point, and especially not now." She said, "You have to be able to forgive and move on." So if someone who lost several brothers and sisters to the war, who lost almost everything, but made it through and survived, could look at the people who were technically, I'm using air quotes, responsible for what she went through and forgive them for that, I think that we can easily forgive someone for wearing the same clothes that we are wearing on a Friday night out with friends, or I'm really making it trivial,
Yeah.
but you get the idea.
It puts everything into perspective.
Yeah, if she's able to let it go, I should be able to let go of someone who cheated on me or someone who treated me poorly because they were hurting and didn't know. At the end of the day, it's never about you anyway. And so if you can learn that and let go and choose to just forgive, deal with the rest of it later, but you have to forgive and then let it go. You've got to start fresh because the past cannot reoccur. But the past can't happen over and over again unless you allow it to. The one incident happens. Now, do you choose to move forward and leave it in the past, or do you want to keep replaying it over and over and over again? What do you want to do?
I agree. Change your thoughts, change your attitude, and everything changes.
So at the end of the day, remember, forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person and everything to do with setting yourself free. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where you've been wronged in any capacity whatsoever, thank the situation, take the lesson, forgive the other person, forgive the situation, move on with your life. You'll be so much happier, so much lighter, and so much better for it.
Yes.
Have a wonderful day. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Enhanced Living Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, feel free to reach me directly at enhancedliving.net. Thanks for listening.